It's WICR.
Good evening. Welcome to a special broadcast here on WICR. I'm Matt Ricker, and I have Joe Archino joining me this evening. How are you, Joe, today?
Matt, Radiothon is one of those things where it doesn't get much better. I always say our station is really all about the people, and Radiothon is one of those times where everyone past and present comes together, and it's just really one of my favorite times. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Yeah, this is actually my first Radiothon, so...
Sure, it won't be your last, I can say that.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. Yeah, and Ionathon is going on tonight, the third annual Ionathon, which is a charity event that students here organize to raise money for cancer research for children. So it's probably going to be a good turnout, as always. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, we'll probably be giving updates on that throughout the night. But so we're going to start with some just some general news. And, you know, I saw you did a segment the other day, and I talked about it yesterday on my show about you know, the American flag and Colin Kaepernick and all those different controversies. But I did hear this afternoon, this is according to Fox News, that Hampshire College, which is a college in Massachusetts, they put up their flag again after taking it down because they claim aftermath of the election. Wasn't really sure the whole reasoning behind that, but they did bring them back up, so that was good to hear. I mean, it never should have been taken down in the first place.
And I think that's one of the big problems we have in this country right now is people just don't understand what the flag truly represents. I think people like Colin Kaepernick, who, look, he's obviously the reason why I've started my series, This Is Why We Stand, and other things like that, but what he's taking a stance against, there's nothing wrong with that. To take a stand against racial oppression, that's something we should all be combating. But the platform he is using is against the wrong people. He's taking his fight up against the wrong people. And I will fight this till the end of time. That flag is and always will be defined by the people who have sacrificed for this country. It is the embodiment of the legacy that they left behind, and they live forever in some way or form because of that flag. So to me, there's no greater disgrace or disrespect than to do something to cause harm to that flag, because again, I think you just need to be able to have a conversation and a dialogue with people. When they understand what that flag really represents, no one will burn that flag. No one will hesitate to hang that flag high because, again, it doesn't represent political injustice. It doesn't represent social injustice. What it represents is the people who were willing to pay the ultimate price for all of us, not for me, not for a white person, not for a black person. They didn't look at it like that. They just sacrificed for each and every one of us because they believed in what they were doing.
Yeah, no, and I know, you know, both me and you have had, you know, members of our family serve in the military, and it's just a disgrace to see all the flag burnings. And yes, the Supreme Court did rule years ago that, you know, it's covered under the First Amendment, but regardless, it's still such a cruel act when you have people overseas that have died and that are currently fighting for our freedoms each and every day and jeopardizing their safety and writing blank checks to the United States. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. But it is good to hear that Hampshire College did place that did place the flag back on there. So yeah, so hopefully that'll be the end of you know, the flag crisis.
It is, and I don't know if it's obviously probably never going to go away in full because, you know, I've been recently watching a lot of the History Channel did a great documentary called Vietnam in HD where they have all this incredible footage of that time, and you know, I go back and watch it from time to time because it's one of my favorite series. But you know, it kind of hit me so much just how stark comparisons there can be between the period we're in now and the period that we were in then, with people protesting the war, burning flags, burning draft cards, different circumstances, but very similar heated climate with the racial, just people on different lines going against each other, people against the war, people are not happy with the direction of the country.
Right.
So there are such stark comparisons that can be made between the two of them. But I think the thing that always brings us back is the people who are doing the sacrificing for us so that we don't have to.
Definitely.
And I think when you saw at Ohio State the other day, there was the story that came out about the military men who were standing by the doorway. And again, that we really do, in our world today, our military people aren't looked at like celebrities, but they're the heroes of our world. They just are. They're the ones who don't do it for the glory. They do it because it's a duty to them. When I saw that story, the first person I thought, my brother is actually in the ROTC program at the University of Albany, and I just thought of him. I thought of all the people that he's made connections with, and I know that's just the mentality that they have. It's a different breed of person, but they're duty-based, and they believe in what they're doing, and they're going to fulfill what they believe in.
Definitely. And so just to shift gears now, what do you think of Donald Trump's recent picks on for his various cabinet positions? There's still a lot of vacant spaces, such as press secretary, and there's a few others that I don't know offhand, but what do you think in general?
Well, I'll tell you today, a pretty good one with General Mathis kind of being brought into the table. And look, I mean, I'm a big believer in Ronald Reagan kind of belief that peace through strength. And I think a person like General Mathis is perfect for that role. And I mean, as you can tell, I am a little biased towards military people, so I think whenever you put people like that in places of position, a lot of good things are going to happen. But I think it's a different philosophy from the Democrats to the Republicans. The Republicans they believe in that Ronald Reagan philosophy of peace through strength, and we do need a stronger military. I mean, our military is always going to have a formidable strength, but we're at a period in our history now where we do need to make it even more stable than it is right now. And I think putting a person like General Mathis in place, who's seen war after war, and more than importantly, he has kind of seen the change that war has undergone. And obviously right now we're fighting a different enemy, and we're going to continue to see new and different types of enemies. And with a person like that who has so much experience in I like people who are going to do it's their way. He has no obligation to anyone else. He's going to just do what he thinks is best for his country. And that's what he's always been about. So I think that right there, right off the bat, was a fantastic one. But what do you think? I mean, have you been happy with what he's done so far?
Yeah, I was glad to see that, Dr. Ben Carson is on there. And then, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, but the new Health and Human Services Secretary.
Yeah, I don't remember that off the top of my head either.
Yeah, but he's actually an orthopedic surgeon.
Okay.
And I don't know if he still practices now, but he knows, like, he's been in the field. He's been in the field, and he knows firsthand of what's going on with these past 8 years with the Affordable Care Act. So that'll be good. He has experience in that. As for press secretary, as I said, it's still vacant, but I do hope he picks Kellyanne Conway, who's been his senior advisor.
She's done a tremendous job. Yes, she deserves a spot like that.
Yeah, so it's unclear. And then also the discussion doesn't stop on Secretary of State. I think there's like 6 or 7 contenders there. I do hope he does choose Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York City.
He's been with him through thick and thin. Right. I'll tell you one of the things I think is very interesting, though. I think when you look at Donald Trump, he's obviously a person where there's a big portion of the country who's still not happy with the outcome of this election. But I'll tell you one thing that I think people really haven't given him credit for, which you really need to, is there's not a lot of people who would have even Mitt Romney, obviously, we know, ran against Barack Obama during Barack Obama's second term, and he lost, and he was very critical of Donald Trump, being probably one of his biggest anti-people.
Oh, yeah, he even, not to cut you off, he said something to the extent that Donald Trump is a phony, is a fraud, is a con artist, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Donald Trump, without hesitation, considering him for a major position in his government. Now, I think sometimes egos get in the way of making people sometimes not bring the best people and put them around him.
Right.
But Donald Trump doesn't think like that. There's not a lot of politicians, and there's not a lot of people in general who would so easily be able to put that aside and then put him on the table. Because I think we would all agree Mitt Romney would probably make a nice contribution to his political system and bring a lot of good things to the table. But a lot of people wouldn't be able to get past that what happened there.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump, it doesn't seem to be a sticking point because I think truly in his heart he wants to do what is best. And I think what he thinks is this is a very smart guy. He's done a lot of great things. Having him on my team could help the country.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that people need to be a little bit more open about and think about things like that, because I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, there's not a lot of politicians who would be able to forget that so easily.
Yeah.
And I think that's something he deserves a lot of credit for.
Definitely, yeah. And, you know, this whole issue now with the recounts in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, it was announced, I think, today or yesterday that Pennsylvania, the deadline to ask for a recount is passed. And then in Wisconsin, they're currently doing that right now. To me, that's just a waste. It's a waste of time, money, and resources. Yes, you know, if someone wants a recount, they can do it. But at the same time, he won by a pretty wide margin. It wasn't kind of like, I mean, yeah, it was close to a certain degree, but it wasn't close, like, you know, by a couple of electoral votes.
It's one of those things where the media still wants stories to put out there, obviously. I mean, I was just going through my news feed the other day, and I saw one thing: can Hillary Clinton still win the election? And I think it's a media type of thing. They're still trying to run with these stories, but it's over. And I do give a lot of stern Democrats I know credit, because you know they always, you have to, no matter who the commander-in-chief is, you have to give him respect.
Oh, yes.
I was not the biggest Barack Obama fan in the world. I certainly was critical of a lot of things he did, but you never disrespect the commander-in-chief, no matter who it is, no matter what political party you're affiliated with. You always give that person respect, because even like Barack Obama said about Donald Trump, his success is our success. We all need to be, we're all on the same team. We all have the same desires and the same goals. And I think because of things like that, this is just another one of those distractions we don't need, but in time it'll go away. It's just a little side bump.
You know, this coming week will be a month from the election.
It's amazing when you think about it, right? It seems like it still feels like it was yesterday.
Yeah, and you know, I was just so taken aback when I saw all the social media outrage, hashtag not my president. You know, all these other negative hashtags. I was like mortified. You know, because yes, social media wasn't like this big as it was back in 2008 and 2012 when Barack Obama won, you know, both terms. And you know, there was backlash, you know, but you didn't see as big as, you know, but, you know, even the pollsters and the media, they did get it wrong. They were playing wrong. And, you know, I always am a firm believer that you cannot follow the polls.
No.
You know, they're not accurate at all. And, you know, I have Dr. Jeannie Zaino as a professor. She's actually a pollster as well. And, you know, she was saying it wasn't so much that the pollsters were wrong. It was just because when people are polled, they don't always give honest answers. You know, so, you know, when they're being asked questions, they can feel kind of pressured to go one way or another. So it really, you know, changed things. And even back when Ronald Reagan was running, I was reading that, you know, it was kind of like the same thing, that he really didn't start, you know, getting a lot of support of people until maybe like the final 2 weeks before the election.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you know, so it was kind of the same situation. But yeah, I mean, it's just people need to accept it and
they do.
You know, move on, and you know, just give him a chance the next 4 years. And you know, he could really turn this country around even more.
It is, and
yeah.
You know, I go back to the military thing, but when the military overwhelmingly is in support of a candidate, that to me is a very telling sign. And almost all the people that I talked to in the military community were sternly in his corner, and I think there's a reason for that. You know, you will kind of to go back to the point that you made. Why was everyone wrong about this? Donald Trump wasn't the kind of guy where your average person was going to go out there and express who they were voting for. But when it came down to time to go into the poll and vote, they knew who they were voting for, but they weren't going to go out there and say it because controversial candidate on both sides.
Right.
I mean, on both sides. But it just goes to show, I think more than anything, the middle class has suffered so much these last 8 years. And then the middle class isn't always will be the backbone of our country, who we are. I mean, my family, we're a middle class family. We all are. And I think they have hurt so much, and they wanted a change. And more than anything, this is the kind of change that they thought was going to be best for them, and certainly that's what I thought, and that's what my thinking was going into the polls.
Yeah, no, and also, and even Hillary Clinton acknowledged this as well, that she felt that, the recent reopening of the FBI investigation, back in July, James Comey said, there's no further evidence to pursue, and, gave the case a rest. Then there was what was called the October surprise.
Yes, the timing of that could not have been worse for her.
Oh, I know, and to me, they should have called it the October bombshell, and that was when James Comey came out and said that they were reviewing more classified material that was on a laptop of Anthony Weiner, who, did all these horrible things, sexting, and he had these emails on a computer that also belonged to Huma Abedin, her closest aide. I was really surprised that she didn't cut ties with Huma, because, with that whole thing. And then, I think it was maybe a little over a week, James Comey comes back out and says that, oh, never mind, there's nothing else to pursue.
Yes.
That definitely damaged her, because people were kind of skeptical, and they were also skeptical, I think, because I know I was, that why was it like flip-flopping like that,
And you know what, Matt? As people, we can forgive a lot of things. We emotionally, we are built to forgive a lot.
Yeah.
But there's one thing that's just a sticking point with all of us, and that's honesty. You can only be dishonest with people so many times before they start to turn away from you. And I think that's always what was going to be the nail in the coffin for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
For me, it was the biggest thing. It was honesty. How am I going to trust you to be the president of my country when time and time again you have stood up there and lied and put other people's lives in jeopardy? That's not something that can be forgiven. If it's once, it's politics. There are lies. There will always be lies.
Yes.
But again, it just comes down to how many times is this going to happen? And
I know.
And look, people just have a hard time buying into her because of the honesty thing. And the timing of that was obviously not good for her. But this is still something that won't go away. And I know she's done a lot of good things. People like to point that out there, that she's dedicated her life to public service, and she has. But sometimes it's a good life lesson to learn. Sometimes the bad you do can overshadow the good that you have done. So you've got to live your life the right way, because you do one thing badly, it could really overshadow all the other good things you've done. And I think in her case, that's exactly what happened.
I agree, and the other thing that kind of annoys me, and to a certain extent, David Petraeus, who served under Obama, the 4-star general, he resigned because of he was accused of sharing classified material with a girlfriend who happened to be a journalist. Meanwhile, it was only a few things that were classified.
Yes.
Meanwhile, you have a presidential candidate who supposedly deleted over 30,000 emails, and no prosecution, no oversight, really. Yes, Congress did an investigation, no charges and everything. I just don't get that. I mean, David Petraeus is actually being considered a Secretary of State contender, so we'll see what happens with that. But, I just, that really got to me, and
it does.
I
think Trey Gowdy is a congressman from South Carolina, is one of my absolute favorites. I hope he runs for president one day, because I don't know if there's anyone I would endorse more heavily than him for president, but the one thing he always says and he stresses is the law is the most unifying thing we have in this country. It's the thing that makes the poorest man in America drive as fast as the richest man in America. And I think that's another one of those things that just, why is she above the law? Why does a sailor from Kansas get jail time for mishandling classified information, and she doesn't? Again, the law, and it's true what Trey Gowdy says. It is a unifying thing. You can't pick and choose which laws you want to follow. And I think, again, that's one of those things that just, it's stuck wrong with people.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, we'll have to see. And I do give, in closing, I do give Hillary Clinton credit for when she made that speech the morning after the election.
That was not easy. That was not easy at all. But
yeah, no, you could tell that she was even shocked. Like at the Javits Center, they had champagne ready to give to, I guess, her supporters and her closest allies. But I do give her credit the way the speech was written, and how that
she could have try to make it into an ugly thing, but she did the right thing, and that's what the country needed desperately because of the division.
Yeah, and it was even nice of her when she called President-elect Trump, saying that she conceded and congratulations and all the other things as well. But yeah, I think that wraps up our segment. That was just a little summary of what's been going on these past few weeks. Been a crazy month since the election, so I can only wait to see what happens next. So we'll be back a little later with some more. And thanks for joining us on our annual Radiothon, and we'll see you a little later.